Donald Trump lost the lawsuit that he had filed against himself and his own IRS. And the judge didn't just dismiss it. She called it out for what it is, a sham. And the judge, Kathleen Williams, did something even rarer that we haven't seen before, but very appropriate in our opinion. She referred the lawyers representing Donald Trump in his lawsuit against himself, including the acting attorney general of the United States, to their respective state bars for discipline. And we're talking about that today. It's kind of unprecedented, but it's also kind of a no-brainer in how you prevent these nonsense lawsuits by being filed by the Trump loyalist attorneys. I'm Sean Kernigan. I'm joined by my law partner and co-host Brian Kabatek on another installment of Civil Action here on the Legal AF Network. Brian, catch us up. I mean, this is a pretty high-profile situation, but let's give some context here. What was this lawsuit? How did it kind of flop at the end?
Yeah, the 30-second review of this, I think everybody probably knows, is that Trump filed this lawsuit against the IRS for allegedly disclosing personal information about himself that he probably should have disclosed anyways, because people are interested in what the man running for president of the United States is paying or not paying in the form of taxes. He files this lawsuit. The court has nothing to do with it. He then settles the lawsuit with himself on the most favorable terms. You mentioned the $1.776 billion settlement that was supposed to go to his fans and friends, but you didn't mention the best part of this, which was the Trump family immunity part.
That's right.
Of the settlement, right?
That's right.
Trump was going to get immunity from any past income taxes that he had filed, including one, which has been widely reported that if the IRS is right, he could owe $100 million to the federal government, which is basically the government he is charged with protecting.
Yeah.
And with getting money in for. Anyways.
I don't know, man. That's your favorite part. My favorite part of it is the $1.776 billion fund. I don't think I mentioned it, but I always talk about it. So that's why you probably think I mentioned it. But yeah, you're right. There's those two incredible components to this. There's a fund, the anti-weaponization fund, for just people to get free money, people that were the subject of other lawsuits, January 6ers, all these crazy people. And yeah, the immunity that his family somehow gets. So what this judge did,
I guess calling one favorite over the other is just wrong. I mean, they're both so fundamentally wrong. But this judge comes along, and what happened initially was she kind of felt, I guess, like she couldn't do anything. And then you got a bunch of retired federal judges who filed what's called an amicus brief, meaning a friend of the court brief, saying, Judge, you got to do something about this because this is so wrong. And she jumped on that, and she conducted her own investigation.
Yeah.
And she's now set aside all of it, not just set aside, but she's banned Trump, his sons, the Trump Organization, the IRS, the Department of Treasury from referring to, citing, offering, or using this sham settlement agreement or any of its provisions in any future judicial, administrative, or regulatory proceedings. This effectively kills it, nullifies it, it's gone. But that's where we get to the good part and the real part we want to talk about today.
Yeah, but wait, there's more.
She didn't stop there. So I want to just say this up front, Sean, before you go through what she did, is that in all the time I've been a lawyer and all the time I practice, all the courts I've appeared in, a handful of times a judge has referred a lawyer in a case I'm involved to, not me, a lawyer in a case I'm involved to the state bar for investigation. It is so rare because it's so obviously bad at that time that the judge feels that he or she has no other obligation but to turn it over to the regulatory authorities, which license us lawyers.
That's why I say unprecedented for something like this to happen, especially typically when it's government lawyers, because you know what? Government lawyers are often pretty competent and they're pretty honorable in terms of ethics.
Well, not now.
Yeah,
well,
not anymore.
Well,
yeah,
not anymore. Yeah, but
things have changed. Yeah, so let's go over the list. Who is there? There's Alejandro Brito.
Not a government lawyer. Let's point that out.
True. Trump's personal lawyer out of his powerhouse law firm is out of Coral Gables, Florida.
Right.
Mecca of law and legal practice, right? He's been referred to the Florida State Bar for disciplinary investigation. I don't know if anything will come of it, but just the referral itself is kind of astounding. Todd Blanche, the acting attorney general, whatever that title means, because Donald Trump can't get anyone to.
And he's nominated as the attorney general of the United States.
True. Yeah, he is. A copy of the order that she wrote has been mailed to the New York State Bar because I think that's where he's licensed. Stanley Woodward, the Associate Attorney General, who signed the settlement agreement on behalf of, I'm not even sure who signed it on. Is there two boxes? One says Donald Trump and the other one says Donald Trump as well, and he has to sign both of them? I don't know. But yeah, he's been referred to the DC bar because that's where he's licensed to practice. Someone by the name of Daniel Epstein, who has been barred, I believe, already from appearing pro hoc vice in the Southern District of Florida now. I think she had the power to do that. So pro hoc vice is if I wanted to do a case in Nevada, for example, which we've done, we've done cases all over the country, but we apply what's called pro hoc vice, meaning to temporarily get to appear in that jurisdiction under the supervision of a locally licensed lawyer, a lawyer from that state. So this guy, I guess he was pro hoc into the Southern District of Florida. He has been barred from appearing pro hoc in that district, so he can't bring any more of his nonsense there. So it's pretty wild. I mean, it's pretty wild to see this happening. And I kind of say that with a smile on my face because it's about time. It's about time that these lawyers who are the instrumentality of doing this type of bidding for Trump get in trouble for doing it, because they're not just, we deal with all kinds of actors. Sometimes we have terrible corporate defendants and insurance companies on the other side of our cases, and they've acted horribly and sometimes with malice, or sometimes they just made terrible mistakes and they have no remorse. But their lawyers are oftentimes really just doing their job. I'm not super sympathetic, but they are doing their jobs. And I firmly believe our system only works when both sides of a dispute have adequate representation. But these guys are doing something, they're abusing the legal system. This isn't just, you're representing a bad actor. They're bringing bullshit cases like this. They're entering into bullshit settlement agreements. And it's about time someone does something.
Yeah, I think this judge even referred to it as performative litigation or political theater.
That's right. That's all it is. But
I want to pivot. I think the Trump administration saw this stuff coming because just a few months ago, the Department of Justice, which Todd Blanche, oversees, right? He actually tried to promulgate, meaning put out there a new rule that no lawyer working for the Department of Justice could be referred to or reported to or investigated by a state bar, a licensing agency. So, I mean, this is so absurd. This is who issues your license to practice law. And your license to practice law is what allows you to be a lawyer at the Department of Justice. And what they said is no state bar can investigate, can look into, can conduct any disciplinary.
I remember this
whatsoever.
We covered this. We talked about this.
Would you like to guess, Sean, how many opposition notices the Department of Justice got when it tried to put this rule out there?
I mean, I think it's probably a lot. I mean, is that a number?
48,000.
Wow.
48,000 people said you can't do this, because what it would do is it would say no state can conduct an investigation. I've said that already. But it said that if they did go about and conduct an investigation, that any personnel from the Department of Justice would be prohibited by law from cooperating with the state that was investigating the lawyer. And if a state bar refuses to suspend its investigation, the Department of Justice would take, quote, appropriate action to enforce the regulation. Appropriate action. I have no idea what it is, but this is basically saying our lawyers can do whatever they want and you can't go after them. You can't do anything. And this judge has said, Judge Williams, she said, no, that ain't going to happen.
I mean, think about it. I always say the best way to analyze a rule is to kind of take it to its extreme and see what kind of absurdity results. You take this to its extreme. You don't even have to go that extreme, right? A government lawyer that hides evidence, willfully hides evidence, there would be no consequence. A government lawyer that lies to a judge, there would be no consequence. I mean, it's just insane, this proposed rule. And the other thing I was going to say is just think about the conflict of interest here. Todd Blanche is the one that has proposed this rule. Now, Todd Blanche, who has been referred to the New York State Bar, has sort of a personal, he has literally a personal stake in a rule he's positioned to kind of push and finalize this rule about, can't do State Bar investigations of DOJ attorneys. That is just incredibly wild. It's so ironic and such a conflict and just so wrong.
Last comment on this is that as we're recording this, the confirmation hearing in the Senate of Todd Blanche is just days away, and now this is hanging over his head. So, unfortunately, I don't think it will affect those disciples of Donald Trump and the Republican Party who are going to—
He can do no harm.
He can do no harm, right? They're going to endorse him, but this is going to be hanging out over his head in the middle of this, and it'll be interesting to see how he responds when he's asked questions about this specific issue, the blanket immunity to the President of the United States for an agency that he oversees. Just to me, it's still more ridiculous than the 1.776. But they're both crazy, Sean.
I think the biggest benefit of this ruling or this decision to refer these folks to the state bar, it's an actual deterrent now. The people will start to recognize these lawyers, no matter how much of a disciple they are of Trump, they'll realize that the next time they sign the next version of this bullshit deal, or they try to file the next bullshit lawsuit challenging something that they know is a loser, but they're doing it anyway to kind of clog up the system, or just political theater, as the judge referred to it. They know that their license is on the table. Their license is on the line. They're jeopardizing it. So I think this is an actual deterrent, and it's really good because it reminds these DOJ lawyers that states have oversight over your license to practice law. You need to follow those ethical rules.
The good ones, Sean, are going to quit or have quit. And what they're going to be left with are the dregs.
I think Popok talks about that all the time, that you have fine lawyers and law students, by the way, who would otherwise, they would dream of becoming government lawyers because you get great training there. I think he may have even been a government lawyer back in the day, and without much regard for which administration you're working under. It wasn't as politicized. And now you're going to have those folks avoiding that. So there's going to be this emptiness when it comes to lawyers that have.
Stay tuned and see what happens with the state.
Yeah,
bar.
Let's see what happens with this and all these state bar issues. We'll be here to cover it on another installment of Civil Action on the Legal AF Network. I'm Sean Kernigan. That's Brian Kabatek, my law partner and co-host. We're a couple of lawyers at Kabatek LLP. If you want to check us out online and reach out to us, you can find us at kbklawyers.com. You can follow me on social media at Shant_K. You can shoot us an email if you have feedback, questions, ideas, things you want us to cover, or you want to talk about a case or an issue you have. Please reach out to us. We're here. We love hearing from you. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.